In a shed 20 minutes north of Florence, a machine called a wolf is eating a jumper. It takes about a minute. What goes in is a navy pullover somebody wore for 10 winters. What comes out is a soft cloud of loose fiber, still navy, and never once re-dyed. That last detail is the whole story. It is the reason this unglamorous city supplies something on the order of 15% of all the recycled wool on the planet. The city is Prato. And to understand what it does, you have to start with a problem that has defeated almost everyone else who has tried it. Wool is one of the few fabrics we could, in principle, use forever. It's a protein fiber. It doesn't shed microplastics into the sea. Pull a garment apart, and the raw material is still there, waiting. And yet, globally, the overwhelming majority of clothing that gets collected is not turned back into clothing. It is shredded into insulation, or mattress stuffing, or burned. Downcycled, then gone. There are two reasons why. The first is physical. Every time you tear a fiber out of a fabric, you break it, the strands come out shorter, and short fibers make weak yarn. The second reason is color. Feed a mixed pile of old clothes into any shredder, and you get the same result every time. A sad, uniform, grayish-brown mud. The obvious fix is to bleach that mud and dye it whatever color you like, which is exactly where the plan collapses. Dyeing is where almost all of textile manufacturing's damaged lives. The hot water, the energy to heat it, the chemistry that goes in, and the effluent that comes out. So if you recycle wool and then re-dye it, you have thrown away most of the reason you bothered. You've saved the sheep and paid the river. Which brings us to the question this whole episode is chasing. How do you make new cloth out of old cloth without dyeing it and without it turning grey? Prato's answer is nearly 200 years old, and it began with a shortage. Prato had water and weavers and almost nothing else. No great flocks, no coal. Its competitors in England and northern France had both. So Prato bought what nobody else wanted. Rags, worn-out coats, army blankets, the contents of other countries' wardrobes, arriving by cart and later by rail. The men who did this trade were called the cenciaioli, rag men. It was not a respectable job, and for a long time it was not a respected cloth. In the first half of the 19th century, a Prato industrialist named Giovanni Battista Mazzoni mechanized the tearing. Suddenly, the city could pull rags back into fiber at industrial speed. That is the ancestor of the machine we started with. Locally, the shredders are still nicknamed wolves, but mechanization alone only gets you the grey mud. The real invention was quieter, and it happened at the sorting tables. Prato's insight was to stop treating a pile of old clothes as waste and start treating it as a paint set that somebody else has already mixed. The clothes are sorted by hand, garment by garment, into color families, not 5 or 6, dozens shade by shade, until the burgundies sit apart from the reds and the reds apart from the rusts. The people who do it are called cenciaioli, and it is skilled work. A good sorter reads a fiber blend by touch and a shade by eye faster than a scanner can. Zips come off, buttons, labels, linings, elastics all removed by hand, because a single metal fastening will wreck a wolf. Then, and only then, the sorted color goes to the shredder. Navy in, navy out. Camel in, camel out. The dye house is simply skipped. The short fiber problem is solved the same unglamorous way, by blending. Prato is a carded wool district, built for exactly this, mixing shorter recycled fiber with enough long fiber to hold a yarn together. A mill will hold hundreds of shades in stock and adjust the recipe by grams, the way a chef adjusts salt. Finished color was chosen decades ago by whoever bought the original coat. Niccolo Cipriani grew up here and came back to it. In 2017, he founded Rifo, a Prato label built on take-back. Send in your worn-out jumper, get credit, watch it become the next one. It is a small company. It matters because it made the loop legible. You can watch your own sweater go in one end. Now, none of this would have traveled beyond Tuscany without the boring part. A claim is worth nothing to a buyer in Stockholm or Tokyo unless somebody counts it. So in 2010, Prato's own Chamber of Commerce did something unusual for an industrial district. It certified itself and set a bar its members had to clear. The mark is called Cardato Recycled. To carry it, a fabric must be substantially made of recycled fiber. The threshold sits at 65%, and the maker must open the books. Then an independent assessor runs the life cycle numbers on that specific cloth. Water, energy, carbon, kilo by kilo. The audited figures are the headline. Roughly 18,000 litres of water saved per kilo of fabric, and somewhere around 90% less carbon dioxide than the virgin equivalent. 18,000 litres is about 100 full bathtubs per kilo, and most of it is saved by not doing something, by not dying. Here is where an honest account has to slow down, because the story nearly ended badly. Through the 90s and 2000s, the district contracted hard. Recycled wool carried a reputation problem for a century. The English word for it was shoddy, and they meant it as an insult. Thousands of firms closed. As the old mills emptied, a second textile city grew inside the first. Thousands of small fast fashion workshops in the Macrolotto district, making new clothes cheaply and at speed. In 2013, a fire in one of those workshops killed 7 people who had been sleeping in cubicles built inside the factory floor. Prato had become 2 opposite arguments about clothing, sharing one postcode. So the recycling loop is not the whole truth about this city. It is the part that works, and it survived precisely because it could prove itself when nobody was inclined to take its word. There is a technical honesty required here too. Mechanical recycling is not infinite. Fibers shorten with every pass, so most recycled wool is blended, not pure, and a garment can only go round so many times. And a wool-polyester blend is still genuinely hard to separate. Prato solved wool. It did not solve everything, but the ground has shifted underneath the argument. Since the 1st of January 2025, every country in the European Union has been legally required to collect textiles separately from household waste, which means an enormous, steady river of old clothing is now arriving with nowhere obvious to go. Most of Europe is staring at that river and improvising. Prato has been doing this since before the invention of the light bulb. It has the wolves, it has the sorters, it has the color libraries, and it has a certificate that turns a moral claim into a receipt. Tens of thousands of tons a year moving through one small Tuscan basin. 15% of the world's recycled wool, from a place with no sheep worth mentioning. The lesson isn't really about wool. It's that the hardest part of a circular economy is never the machine. It's the sorting, the patient, human, deeply unfashionable work of keeping things separate before you ruin them. Get that right and you don't need to bleach anything back to nothing. The color was always there. Somebody just has to be bothered to keep it. I've put the full breakdown in the description, the Cardato audit methodology, and what its 18,000-litre figure actually measures. The mills and labels you can buy this cloth from today, and the open question of what happens when the blends arrive. Start there if you want the receipts rather than the headline.